Hey, good morning everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a great day. What a beautiful morning out there. We had a special holiday, Shavuot. As I mentioned to some of you, I had the honor of my parents coming to visit. They were supposed to come for Passover, and unfortunately my father got sick with coronavirus and they couldn't come. And then, thank God, last week my parents got tested for antibodies and they came to spend the holiday here as they have done for many, many years for Shavuot. And we had a special time. We had a minyan here in the back on both Friday and Saturday, and those who needed and wanted to come to minyan were in touch with me and were able to join. We plan to continue it. But I want to tell you what I spoke about yesterday before Yizkor. And I want to connect it to the tragic news this week in America. So much pain, so much hurt at the terrible death of Mr. Floyd, bringing out such raw emotions in our country. I couldn't even watch the video. So much pain, so much hurt. How do we deal with it? What does it say about our society? What are we supposed to do? But I'll speak about that at the end. I want to tell you about Torah. The book of Samuel 1 and Samuel 2 is primarily speaks about King David's life and King David's struggles and his victories, and of course his relationship, his dear friend, and his connection to Jonathan, Yehonatan, who was King Saul's son, and how close they were, and how Jonathan risked his life to save his friend King David when King Saul wanted to kill him. He wasn't king yet then, but Jonathan, against any logical rationale, as I explained a few weeks ago, tried to protect his friend King David. And they came up with a plan like this. And it's a Haftorah that we read twice a year. It's my son Levi's Haftorah. It's one of the most beautiful Haftorahs. You see, every month for Rosh Chodesh, King Saul had a beautiful meal and celebration. And King David was at the table always. And Jonathan says, King David, tomorrow, tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. And he says, V'nifkadeta, you will be remembered, ki paked moshevecha, because your place will be empty. He says, King David, don't come tomorrow, and we'll see my father's reaction. And based on King Saul's reaction, we're going to know if he wants to kill you, or he's going to let you go and move on. If he gets irrational and angry about you not being there and wants to do crazy things, we'll know your life's in danger, and if not, not. But there's something lost in the English translation that you only get in the Hebrew. When Jonathan speaks to his friend, King David, he says, V'nifkadeta, you will be remembered, ki paked moshavecha, because your place will be empty. The word he uses for being remembered is the same word he uses for emptiness of your place. The question is, how could you use the same word for both? And the answer, of course, is that it's not lost on the Tanakh. What the message the Tanakh is trying to tell us, the message of the Torah is teaching us, is that sometimes, unfortunately, only when the seat is empty do we remember those we loved, those we missed. And it happens throughout life. It's with our children sometimes. We have young children. And then they become teenagers and they make us meshuggah. They want everything. They're always complaining. They're never grateful. And sometimes you wish, when are they going to get out of the house already? When are they going to go to college? When are they going to get married? When are they going to have their own house? But then when their chair's empty, then we remember them. And the same thing is sometimes with parents. We care for our elderly parents. And it can be hard. It can be difficult. It can be challenging. It's not easy. But then, when they're not here anymore, how we wish we could have them to take care of them. I think Mr. Pfeiffer, Julius Pfeiffer is his name, in his book, he brings it out in such a powerful way. He speaks about this woman who was married for many years and her husband went to work every day. And when he came home to work, she said she tried to rekindle the romance, the thing that made her get in love with him, but she couldn't. All she heard him do was chewing loud on the chicken she made for him. And she said, what am I, his slave? I come to cook for him. come to make dinner for him. And she was so excited when one day he came home and he says, you know what? I have to go on a business trip for 1 month. And she says, oh, I can't wait now. I'll be able to hang out with my friends. I won't have to make dinner for my husband, etc., etc. Guess what? The first week, she was calling all her friends and kibitzing and having a great time. By the second week, she got sick of them already. What does she need her friends? They give her a headache. She started realizing why she fell in love with her husband to begin with. By the third week, she really started missing him. She started sleeping on his side of the bed. She started anticipating and waiting for him to come home. By the fourth week, she was madly in love. She couldn't wait for him to come home. She hugged him. She embraced him. And by the fifth week, she was waiting for his next business trip for him to go away again. Isn't that the story sometimes? V'nifgadeta. When are we remembered? When do we miss something? Ki yipakeid moishevecha. When our place, when the people that we love or the things that we miss are not there anymore. But there's a deeper thing. And this is what I want to tell you. And then I want to connect it back to our life, to coronavirus, and to what's going on in America. 1977. Shemini Atzeres, the happiest day of the year. The Lubavitcher Rebbe came down to do hakafot with thousands of chassidim. No one was worried about a virus then. There was no coronavirus. People were like sardines, pushed together, watching the Rebbe. The Rebbe finished his first hakafa and he turned around weakly. And by the second and third hakafa, the Rebbe could barely clap. His face turned white. And the Rebbe asked for a cheer, which never happened. The happiest, most joyous day of the year. And Chabad headquarters by Chassidim celebrated with the Rebbe, and suddenly the Rebbe couldn't stand anymore. The Rebbe asked for a cheer, and within minutes they started screaming, water, water, in a space that had thousands of people. Every window was broken, became an escaped exit, and a way for air to get in. There were less than 100 people in there. The Rebbe was having a massive heart attack. The Rebbe went up to his room where the doctors came to care for him. Imagine for Chassidim, the highest, joyous, most joyous day of the year without the Rebbe. The Rebbe sent down instructions that the Chassidim should continue dancing, and they danced the whole night, but you can imagine how they danced. Later that evening, one of the doctors came to the Rebbe to draw blood from the Rebbe. And he asked the Rebbe asked him, tell me, what draws the blood? Is it the needle? Or is it the vacuum that draws the blood? What is it that draws the blood from the person? The doctor was surprised that the Rebbe wouldn't know such a basic thing. He didn't realize what the Rebbe was getting at, but he said, of course, it's the vacuum. The vacuum draws the blood, not the needle. So the Rebbe says to him, you know, one of his disciples once wrote him, a chassid once wrote him, he says, Rebbe, I feel so empty. I feel like nothing. There's such a vacuum within me. I feel like I can't accomplish anything. I feel like I can't do anything. I feel empty as I've ever been. And the Rebbe looked at the chassid and said, on the contrary, the vacuum is what creates the next opportunity. The vacuum is what creates. That's what draws the blood. That's what gives you the passion and the ability to grow even higher. The Rebbe looks at the doctor and says, I can't give a sermon today like I do every year. But let this be my sermon. Chassidim understood the message. What the Rebbe was saying is, don't be shattered. Oops. I'm sorry, you see that? I couldn't get it right. The camera fell. The wind, you got to take the opportunities you get and just move on with them. So the Rebbe said, and I'm sorry that I'm continuing on, the Rebbe message with the Chassidim was very clear. He says, "V'nifgadeta ki yipaked moishevecha." Don't be crushed by this absence, because really every absence, every vacuum is a room to grow, a room to be able to continue, to bring it to success, to reach even deeper and reach higher. And that's the message of v'nifgadeta ki yipaked moishevecha. You will be remembered because of the emptiness. You will be remembered to be able to grow even higher. You know, I once had a friend that was a rabbi, a colleague in the community. He says, you know, he can never live up to his predecessor. His predecessor, they always talk about him. He says, every year in my temple, my predecessor becomes even greater than he was the year before. In fact, no one could ever replace him. Never mind me. If he was resurrected and he came back to life and he came here, he wouldn't be able to replace his old self. So that's the first simple meaning. We only remember after we miss something. But the deeper meaning that Rebbe was teaching his Chassidim that night, which is really for all of us, is v'nifkadeta. When do we remember, when do we get the opportunity for growth? When there's emptiness, when there's a vacuum, when there's a struggle. I think about this as it relates to coronavirus and to the time we live in now. We're in the greatest vacuum we ever had. Think about it. It's been over 2 months where we haven't been congregating together, where we haven't been going to work properly, where we haven't been out in the streets, where we haven't been celebrating our life the way we're used to it. But the truth is that every vacuum, every struggle, every challenge is an opportunity to grow. And as I told him yesterday by Yizkor, and I said this before, the difference between when we miss a loved one and we remember them after they're gone, and now, is that now, thank God, God will give us an opportunity again to go out to the world and to be back to normal one day. But the question is, will we still remember after that opportunity comes back to us, after coronavirus is over? Who are we going to be then? We need to remember v'nifkadeta. We have to be remembered. We have to remember. We have to grow from this vacuum. From the emptiness, we have to become greater people. That's what I told him yesterday. But now I want to talk about what's going on in America this week and connected. Think about the struggles we've been having over 2 months. We've lost 100,000 Americans who have died. More than the Vietnam War and the Korean War together. And we're not even done, unfortunately, heaven forbid. You would think that this would bring out the greatest unity in our community, in our country, togetherness, to be closer, to be stronger, to overcome our challenges. And then you watch what happened last week in Minnesota with Mr. Floyd, and it shouldn't make a difference what your opinion might be politically, or what your opinion might be on anything else. When someone sees such a tragedy, when someone sees such brutality by someone who has power and is supposed to be a role model, it should make us shudder. It should make us think, how could it be that our country has come to this? And please, it's irrelevant if it's only police brutality or if he was a racist. The fact is that anyone that denies that there are minorities that suffer at the hand of those who have power is living in the sand, is living in a bubble. I, as a Jew, as someone who's a minority myself, worry when there's power that's unchecked. And that's why already years ago I spoke, and I know it's controversial, I said, anyone that's a decent human being that worries about the truth should encourage cameras on every police officer to be able to record the truth. Because you know what's the saddest thing? 99% of police officers are the best people. They protect us. They take care of us. They are the ones that have to protect us. And here they get tarnished by what 1, 5, 10, 20 officers do. I don't know the number, but think about it. I live in a town like Brookline, and I deal with the police in Newton too. The finest people you've ever seen are these people. They're kind, they're generous, they're caring. They should be tarnished by the terrible things that 1 or 2 people do. But if we can't have sensitivity to those that feel in pain, that feel vulnerable, what kind of society are we? We need to think about this. And then to see the riots that are going on, and again, tarnishing a whole community. People that are taking violence, using this as an excuse to hurt innocent people, to loot stores, to damage, to steal, to take things that are not theirs. And then again, they tarnish a whole community of law-abiding people that actually care, that actually want our country to have a conversation that we should have. So I think, going back to what I said before, and I'll finish with this, this vacuum has to lead us to introspection, to think about where our country is. And if we can't have the conversation now, then we can never have the conversation. The police in our country are the best people in the world. They protect us. But there are those within those ranks that prey on minorities and people that are vulnerable. And we as a society, as a country, have to stand up to that no matter what. And we also have to stand up to looting and to violence, which never has any excuse. If someone takes the law, protest is the most important thing. Civil disobedience is what we have to do. And go out in the street and let our voices be heard. And we hear the voices of those in pain. We hear the voices of the black community and we feel for them. We feel for their vulnerability. We feel for how they feel singled out in a terrible way. But that's never an excuse for violence. And we have to stand up to both the same way. I pray and hope that we take the lessons of Yizkor and the message that Jonathan was telling David, through this vacuum in the terrible time of coronavirus, and to see such tragedy and such pain, that we take this to heart and we have a conversation. And we are more sensitive and more caring and more loving. And God should bless us all. Protect our great country that has so much love and so much potential and so much caring. We are the most charitable, kindest country in the world. That I've always coined and termed America, Chasidei U'Misraelim, the kind nations of the world. There is no kinder, better nation. But that doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation about the things that are wrong here and the things that we have to become better at. And if we can't do that, we're denying and fooling ourselves. Anyways, I've said enough. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.